His head stays in the same place. The board drops away. It starts to accelerate forwards. So when you're dropping into a wave, that's the angle of the surfboard dropping into the wave face. I get my head gently over the front foot, and then the roll-in's pretty easy. You want your head forward so that when you start to roll down the bowl, you're 90 degrees to the angle of the wave. In surfing, the pop-up is considered one of the hardest things to do when learning how to surf. So what we are going to do is we are going to go into OMBE headquarters and we are going to break down world champions doing their pop-up and pull out relevant information that you need to know about this thing that you're struggling with. We're doing a pop-up series, and the stuff that we show you here is vital to understand what's going on with your pop-up. So if you like and subscribe, you'll be able to get all of the videos that we're giving to you, so there's no missing information. We have got a video of Brent Rose who has filmed the pros popping up in a wave pool in slow motion. And the slow motion is an amazing tool for us to try to figure out how the best surfers in the world do their pop-ups and maybe what's going wrong with yours. First thing you want to do is we're just going to show Geordie Smith doing his pop-up in slow motion. So here we go. So he takes off on the wave. And everything looks kind of as it should, but you're probably missing a detail. So the big thing about surfing is that you don't know what you don't know. And until you make those mistakes, it's not going to become obvious. So here's the thing. I want you to focus on where his head is. Just before the pop-up, notice that his head, and look at the lip line. Okay, so he's paddled in and he's raised his head up. He's created lift. Your head weighs 5 kilograms roughly. I'm sure Geordie's weighs about 6. He's a big bloke, but he's picked it up. Now, watch what happens after the pop-up. Pay attention to his head. And as he goes into a standing position, his head is still in the same position. So what's happened is the head hasn't moved. But with the beginner surfers, when they catch the wave, they got their chins on the board, they're windmilling into the wave, they're over paddling, they're stress paddling, they're going down the wave, chins low, makes it really, really hard to stand and really, really hard to pop up. So what we're going to go into now is we are going to uncover how important it is to keep your head up, to create lift, to be able to catch the wave more effortlessly, and then to try to figure out why are you guys moving your head so much when you surf, and is it something that you can control, and is it an easy fix? Here's the crazy thing about surfing that you might not know, but basically it's patterns and pattern recognition. So in surfing, if there's a lot of people doing the same thing, you're going to be able to recognize a pattern. And then when you can see the pattern, you can start to do it because it's going to start making sense. Kelly Slater, he paddles into the wave. Notice how high his head is when he's paddling. He creates lift with the head, and then when he pops up, his head stays in the same place. The board drops away. Here's another world champion, John Florence. When he paddles in, he raises his head, and when he stands up, the head stays in the same place. Here's a goofy footer, Gabriel Medina. When he paddles in, he raises his head. When he pops up, his head stays in the same place. Are you guys seeing a little bit of a pattern over here? Let's try some of the women. Here is multiple world champion Steph Gilmore. When she paddles into a wave, she raises her head, stands up, the head stays in the same place. I know we're talking about a pop-up, but what we need to do is we need to fast forward to when you are up. What is it that you're looking for? So basically, as humans, when we walk, it's a controlled fall. So my head goes forward and I take a step. All right, so it's simply a controlled fall. And if you run, you fall a little faster. So the reason for that is that we want some momentum to help with the movement. Now, the big problem in surfing is that a lot of people, when they paddle into waves, got their chins really low on the board. So it kind of looks something like this. Chin low, and they're really, really paddling, and they've got no peripheral vision, and they can't see anything. So to go to an explosive pop-up that's really fast and really quick becomes really, really hard. But when we run, what we do is we raise our head slightly forward, giving us forward momentum, and we actually come up into a nice front-on running stance. And if I go sideways, you'll notice that my head is balanced over the front foot. So this is really important for surfing. A lot of people, when they pop up and it looks something like this. All right, so you'll notice that my head is on the side of my body, which puts pressure on my toe edge, which makes the board want to tilt that way. And because I'm unbalanced, there's a lot of wobbling that happens from the hips. But what the pros do when they come up, okay, they raise the head, and the head comes in a straight line over the front foot. Now from here, you can compress and you can extend, and it doesn't make a problem. Whereas if you're over here, your compression and extension gives you a wobble. So what happens is that beginner surfers then, because they're feeling a wobble, they lock up, and this kind of happens. So in actual fact, the pop-up becomes a lock-up. Now, when they're on a wave, and a wave isn't flat, it's got a bit of an angle to it. So it's constantly kind of moving the board. And unless you can compress and extend and adjust to those incremental movements, and move your head forward, move your head back, move your head over your toe edge, heel edge, you can start to shift your head to make those incremental movements to balance. Whereas a side-on surfer, their head moves too much. And if they do straighten, the momentum from the big movements makes them really unstable and wobbly. So it's super important to keep your head balanced and still. Now, the other thing is that if I was to run, I got to balance over the front foot. No matter which foot it is, it's always the front foot that I'm balancing on. And that's going to give me the control over the acceleration. If you're standing in a train, okay, and the train took off and you didn't expect it, because the train's going that way, your head will get pushed that way. It's one of Newton's laws. But if you understood, push, train's about to leave, and you moved your head over the front foot, you wouldn't fall over backwards. So a lot of problems is that when surfers stand up, they try to balance their head in the center of the board. And then when you add acceleration to the surfboard, the head goes that way, the board goes that way, and end up falling over backwards. So what the pros do is they've got their head balanced over the front foot, and that gives them control over the acceleration. Because you always see beginners take off and the hands are going all over the place. They're simply not taking the acceleration into account. And the flying arms are trying to stabilize them in a situation where they are accelerating. I'm going to jump on the Bosey ball and just illustrate my head to you. So if I jump on the Bosey ball, I can get balance pretty quick. And you notice my head doesn't move much. But a lot of beginners, they're in a side-on posture and the head and the hips start to counterbalance. And as soon as I do that, the ball starts wobbling a lot more. But when I straighten that up, the wobble goes away. Which means that when you're on your surfboard and your hip and your head are not in a straight line, they start wobbling. Okay? Now, most of the pros are frontward facing and the head's over the front foot. So if I move my head slightly over my front foot, can you see the angle of the ball? It starts to accelerate forwards. So when you're dropping into your wave, that's the angle of the surfboard dropping into the wave face. So I've got that angle, and I simply moved my head over the front foot. Then if I straighten everything, I can stand on one leg and still have balance. And you'll see the pros standing in barrels, head over the front foot, and just in control because the head's balanced and the head's nice and light. One of the big problems in surfing is that when beginners paddle, they often don't look at the wave, so they stress paddle, and this is what tends to happen. So they're on the board, their head's really low, and they're just doing this. And they're just like gritting their teeth, spits flying everywhere, and they can't see where they're going. So when they come to pop up, they tend to look down, and then if you're looking down, what happens is on the pop-up, the head's already low. They've got no space to stand up because the head's quite low. The head's over to the side, and if they did stand up, this happens and they're gone. Now, look at the difference here. You'll see the pros when they're paddling into wave, they're looking where they're going, so they raise the head off the board. And then when they're paddling in, they start to glide into the wave, and for a moment, they don't go straight into the pop-up. They actually pause, raise their head, and create space. This taking time gives them time to get to their feet. And then from there, where their head's a lot lighter, they can come up into a nice standing position. And then they just shift the head forward for acceleration, back to slow down, or they shift the head over the toe edge to turn to the right, or over the heel edge to turn to the left. So your head placement is almost your locus of control. But if you're looking at the bottom of the wave, or if you're looking at the stuff that's scary and fearful, you're not going to control where your head's going. You're not going to be able to see the line that you need to take, and it's going to create a whole bunch of problems for you. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a pop-up like the pros do it, and I'm going to do it backwards, and then I'm going to do it forwards, and I'm going to do it slow as I want or as fast as I want, to show you that your pop-up has all got to do with creating space and lifting your head. Okay? So if I had to do it going backwards, so the pros have got the weight over the front foot, they then go backwards nice and slowly. Do you see how I've got 3 points of contact? I now have another 3 points of contact. Okay, and when I walk up, all right, you'll notice my feet, they're off the board, but do you see those 3 points of contact there? And from here, I walk up. To go back, I simply go down 3 points of contact, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Into my arch, which is what the pros do. And my feet aren't on the board, and then boom, boom. Okay, now in surfing, the steeper the wave is, the easier it is. Because the surfer's head stays in the same place, the surfboard drops away. So as soon as you feel acceleration, you can start to lift your head, create lift, the board will drop away, making it easier. It's less of a push-up, but if you hold on and you go down into the flats and you try to stand up on a flat part of the wave, you need to get stronger, because now you're doing a push-up, plus there's gravity, there's G-force, which means you've got to be even stronger. But if you take off on a slightly steeper wave, the steeper wave drops away, making the takeoff easier, which is why Beth Hamilton, who has got one arm, can catch waves, because the surfboard drops away. Okay, so it's not so much about how strong you are, it's about how smart you are and using your head. You've got to understand the outcome of the pop-up is to get you standing on the board where you can surf. Now, if you were to just balance on a board, if you add any acceleration to the board, look what happens. Falls over backwards. So what do you think happens after the pop-up and where you're trying to balance on the board? The board's accelerating down the wave face, you're falling over backwards. Or even worse, if you've got your head over the side, you're wobbling on a toe edge, going sideways, and then falling over backwards. So if you look at the stick, okay, in order for me to figure out how to balance it, I move the top of the stick, which is like moving your head. And if I can get the top just right, I might stand there for a bit. Okay? So in surfing, you're trying to balance your head. Now, your joints, you have to stack them. So from the ankle to the knee, that's one joint. From the knee to the hip, that's another joint. And from the hip to the shoulder, that's another joint. So if you stack your joints, you're going to have good balance. The thing that's missing here is then the acceleration part. So if I'm going to drop into the skate ramp, or even if I'm going to walk, I'm going to get my head over the front foot, and that gets me in control of the acceleration. So when you do come out of your pop-up, you don't want to have your head centered. You'll probably fall over backwards. You don't want to have your head over the back foot. You'll probably fall over backwards. You want to do what the pros are doing and have it over the front foot. So when I roll into the bowl, okay, I get my head gently over the front foot, and then the roll-in's pretty easy. Even when I come out, head over the front foot. So I think that that's a huge missing part of the pop-up. If this stick is balancing and there's acceleration, the stick's going to fall backwards. So when you take off on the wave and you're doing a pop-up, you don't want balance. In actual fact, you want your head forward so that when you start to roll down the bowl, you're 90 degrees to the angle of the wave. So it'll feel like you're falling forwards, but in actual fact, you're still perpendicular to the surfboard. Another big issue is that people get these crazy, crappy postures when they surf, and they're looking down and they end up going down and they have a wipe out and the board doesn't fit. They don't know why they're falling. Strange things are happening. They're just popping off the board. They're just rolling off. Meanwhile, it's all a posture issue. And then what happens is they come out of there with trauma, and the first thing they do is they blame their pop-up and go, I've got a crap pop-up. And they go and practice 1,000,000 of them. And they want to do it quicker and they want to do it faster. But all they do is they just jump up and lock up into a really crap position that makes it super difficult to start to shift your weight and to start to be able to move. Because in essence, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find effortless movement where we're balanced while in motion. Now here's the crazy thing about a pop-up. The more inside your head you get and the more steps and processes you start putting in place to try to fix your pop-up, the worse it's going to become. It's an intuitive feeling. When you wake up in the morning, you don't think about popping out of bed. You just stand up and you start walking. So when you balance your wave, if you look at everything that's bad about the wave and you try to rush your pop-up, the chances of you making a mistake are super, super high. But if you look at where you want to go, because if you wake up in bed in the morning, you run to the toilet, like there's the toilet, and you start just intuitively walking towards the toilet. So in surfing, you need to know where you're going, and you do this by having your head up and looking and getting peripheral vision, not focusing on the problem and antagonizing it and rushing it and making it worse and then making your problem powerful by doing 1,000,000 pop-ups. All right? The key is keep your head up, keep a level shoulders, relax, take your time, enjoy it. So after 30 years of coaching, the thing that I have come to realize is that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So just by doing something over and over again, you might be strengthening your bad habits. So what I encourage you guys to do is come to OMBE and train with one of our professional coaches who know their stuff. Alternatively, we have retreats all around the world. Come join one of the retreats, or we even go on boat trips to places like the Mentawais, where we have great waves in a great location with the best coaches.